Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Singapore Watch Collecting Podcast. I'm with Ryan again, who featured in the first episode. And today we'll be sitting down to discuss the highlights of Watches and Wonders 2023, which should have concluded 5 days ago. For reference, we're recording this on the 7th of April. In total, we'll be covering 8 brands today. There will be chapters in the video, however, so feel free to skip to the brands you're most interested in hearing about. Thanks again for joining me, Ryan. And yeah.
Thank you for having me, Sean. Keen to get into the brands.
Yep. So I think the first brand that we'll probably be starting out with would be Patek. In my opinion, I think last year for me personally, Patek had the best releases out of all the brands, watches like the 5326, things like that. Just a good all-around range of products. And of course, we saw, the return of the discontinued sports watches as well, I believe.
Yeah. They focused a lot on white gold last year as well.
Right. And I guess this year, as we'll see as well, there's some focus on white gold. So I think we'll just start off with some of our favorites from this year's Patek releases. In general, what is your feel though? My personal take is I'm not sure if it's just fatigue or whether last year's releases were so good. But I feel like Patek generally this year, as well as for a lot of other brands, it wasn't as good. What are your thoughts?
Like you said, fatigue plays a part as well. During the past 2-3 years, I think it was a rush where everyone was wanting to get their hands on anything new that came out on the market, right? And then this year, you can see it definitely slowed down a lot. They didn't come out with many sports model, if at all, for the men's. It's the Aquanaut in rose gold. It's a combo that they've done before. But there wasn't much of a hype, I guess you can say, around it. They were more focused on high complications, the minute repeaters, the complications, the grand comps, things like that. So I think it was quite impressive, the grand comps that they did this year, especially the retrograde sapphire crystal one. It's like a black sapphire crystal retrograde date. Minute repeater.
I think that's the reference 5316.
Yep.
I think to me, that would be one of my personal favorites of this year. I had a good friend who was allocated, I think, the solid dial version last year, and it just wasn't as nice. I think this year's, it's a nice mix because I don't think Patek really does skeleton watches very often. The other key one would also be a minute repeater. I forget the reference.
The 5313 open dial skeleton.
Sure, that sounds about right. But this time, I think they've done a sort of smoke crystal, which is very reminiscent of things like the Lumen. I think Panerai recently also did a perpetual calendar, which has a smoke crystal.
That's right.
Thankfully, the moon phase is still there. But yeah, it looks amazing. I think the retrograde, there was a big focus on retrograde this year from, I think, Vacheron as well, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, this is one of my favorite releases this year. Of course, it is outside the realm of a mere mortal like me, but
it's nice to look at. It's nice to see new releases that they've pushed out, to push the boundaries of what they've been doing.
For sure.
Years,
And I think we mentioned it in the first episode of the podcast, but there's been a push towards, watches that are catered towards young people. But sometimes Patek can obviously get this wrong or get it, not as tasteful. But that is a nice one for the trust fund babies out there. But yeah. Anyways, moving on, I think another one that I wanted to touch on, because this is quite an interesting complication for me, is I believe the 24-hour, the reference.
The 24-hour.
5224. When I first saw pictures of it, I think my initial gut reaction was, I'm not sure what's going on here, because at least
really
for me...
It's messy in a way?
Kind of. I think it's the size of the numerals for me and just the design of them. I'm very big into typography, or at least it's important for me. So this was initially not something that I liked, but seeing photos or wrist shots that people were taking from the event, I do think it was quite a nice watch. What are your thoughts on this one?
Compared to the previous 5224, it's different. This one is a lot messier in that sense. You can see that there's a lot of numerals, there's a lot of little hour markers here and there, and I was actually wondering about the travel time feature, how you'd actually advance or go back in time
Right.
because it's missing the pushes.
Yeah.
But I think, if I'm not wrong, they adjust with the crown position. So
Oh,
I thought that was
interesting.
quite interesting. You know, that's something. Not, I don't think they've ever done anything like that with crown positions for GMT hand settings.
Yeah, sure. I thought it would be similar to one of the other watches that we'd be covering, which is, well, I guess we'll move on to it.
Yep. The chronograph.
Well, I think going off of that, we can touch on the 5924 first, because
Yep.
it's the same topic of we have a new travel time. I guess it replaces the 5524, maybe?
Oh yes, yeah, okay, yep. I guess it's a similar style.
I mean, the complications are the same, but I suppose we are missing the pushers to adjust the travel time.
Yep.
And I think I had some time wearing Adrian's rose gold.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my bad if I'm getting the reference number wrong, but I just remember, I think when you adjust the time zone for that,
Yep.
it feels good.
Yep.
So it's kind of a shame. I think you mentioned that, wait, your main gripe is that this doesn't have the pushers, right?
Yeah, so I mean the top pushers, both pushers are for starting and resetting the chronograph. So
Okay.
for travel time, you're left with pushing the pins.
Right.
And I don't think anyone's going to be carrying pins around just for the sake of travel time. You know, if you're traveling a lot, you'd use the pushers to adjust it. You know, it just makes more sense for
Yeah.
me.
What are your thoughts on the dial layout though this time? I think, we've changed. The sub-dials have changed, right?
Yeah, it feels a bit cluttered, I feel. I like the design without the two sub-dials at the top and bottom. It's just clean, legible.
Yeah, and I have to say, for the green dial version, I'm generally not a fan of green. So,
Well, that's
Yeah.
surprising. I thought that's like a hype that's going on, you know.
oh yeah,
Green's
I'm a
it's a
very,
new green.
very hype boy, hype beast. But no, that's not so much for me.
Yep.
But I think moving to something that I did quite like this year, which I think some people are split on. I really like the 6007G.
Yep.
So this is a continuation of the 6007A, which our good friend has in steel. That was a watch, I believe, to celebrate the opening of a new manufacturer,
Yeah,
if I'm not
that's right.
mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it has the same sort of, I believe it's a printed gear shade dial,
It's
something
like a
like
carbon
that.
motif or something
Yeah,
they call
I
it.
just saw people or all the AP fanboys coming out of the woodwork to defend their beloved Code 1159, saying, hey, you know, people were flaming us that this is, I believe, stamped or something like that.
Yep.
Basically a shortcutted way. And then Patek is doing the same thing. But to
But
me
they're
personally,
Patek, so
right.
people,
Yeah, it's
you can
Patek.
get away with it.
Right. Personally, to me, though, I think the watch looks good. I believe it's kind of pricey, though, if I'm not mistaken, but I'd have to relook at it.
I mean, white gold, you're looking at the range of, what,
50 plus for sure.
Yeah, Singapore dollars.
Yeah, but I just like the little pop of color, and I do think it's still quite tasteful. It's not in your face like some time ago they did the World Time chronograph in platinum with a bright green dial.
Yeah.
Things like that I feel like are a bit too over the top.
Okay.
But as with this 6007, it's quite tasteful. I believe it's blue, yellow, red.
Yep. Because
So
they were saying they wanted to cater this to younger audiences, you know, to the younger crowd of Patek. But I
Yep.
mean, I would like to see it in steel. You know, I mean, price point wise, it's more affordable for the younger crowd, of course. But
Yeah.
they can't do it in steel because that's for the limited edition.
For sure. Also, Calatravas rarely come in steel. I think the only modern non-limited edition Calatrava that has come in steel is the 5212, which is the weekly calendar. I think people do need to consider, like, price is one thing, but Patek can't go around diluting their existing models.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Anyways, and I think a big one that a very Marmite sort of watch this year was the 5261, the new Aquanaut, which was targeted at ladies, but being honest, most of the husbands will probably jack the watch to wear.
I know I would, just for the sake, because it's 39
sure.
millimeters. It's not
Yeah.
a small watch, you know, at all.
Yeah, it's a good size, I think, actually. And I believe, well, you have an Aquanaut on
Yeah,
today.
I've got on my friend's 5167A, and it's a 40 millimeter. It wears perfect, you know.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
anything,
yeah.
a 39 would wear even
But
better.
I think, like, for me, looking at it from this angle, one big thing is that the rubber strap is not like it comes straight down.
Yeah, it still
It does
flares out a bit.
conform against the case or like flows from the case and lugs
Yep.
outwards.
Yep.
So I do think like even though this is a smaller size, it's actually not that small. I imagine there are still ladies who won't be able to wear it.
Of course. I mean, even the jumbos and things are 39,
Yeah,
it's a classic size.
So yeah. But personally, what are your thoughts on this dial? I think that was a controversial part for many.
I've never been a fan of a date window that cut out of the blue into the dial and then...
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
It's something that...
It's at the bottom.
It's like an eyesore a little.
Right.
And then you have the moon phase at the top, which cuts off 12. And, you've got 2 sub-dials in the middle. It's just a bit of a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was executed in a more clean, simple way, it might look a lot nicer.
I think on the bright side, at least in terms of like cleanliness of design, it's symmetrical.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. It just reminds me of like...
It looks like it's upside down, sort of.
It reminds me of a fictional character that has like a third eye on their forehead. And so I'm not like a huge fan of it. And also, the Aquanaut has never been like my favorite platform.
Yep.
I've always preferred a Nautilus over it. So
Yep.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And then moving on from that one, I mean, I guess we have to cover the 5531 that was recently discontinued in rose gold. So they came out with another one in white gold, if I'm not wrong, with Lake Geneva and a Swiss flag, if I'm not wrong as well, on the enamel dial.
Yeah, so one of my best friends, at least, he really wanted the 5531R. It was always his sort of grail because I think the Lake Geneva design meant a lot for him. And, while it has no sentimental value for me, looking at the previous version and this version, I don't know, there's something... the previous one is just nicer to me. Looking at this,
better.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the enamel on this one, the flag really sticks out like a sore thumb, and generally, I feel like the World Time enamels, for me personally, look better in rose or yellow gold. I think more rose gold, and so this one has definitely lost a bit of its luster for me. Again, I'll never be in a position to buy one, so. It doesn't really matter.
Soon it's coming.
But I think for my friend's sake, I'll just say, screw you, Patek. Bring back the rose gold version. Okay, so the second brand that we're covering is one of my love-hate. No, I mean, I love them, and I'm not sure if they love me, but yeah. Anyways, we have VC. So last year was pretty good, but I think last year my complaint was that they focused a lot on the high-end models.
Yep.
And I remember talking to Gail, who's the regional managing director, and I was saying that, I hope that they do more watches that are more accessible.
Yeah,
things like the
definitely.
56, that sort of price range. Not everyone can afford like the Tourbillons, the Skeleton Perpetuals.
Of course.
Even the 222 was like 100K Sing dollars, which I think is still very ambitious. So this year, I'm not sure if my pleas were answered. I don't think so. But the first one I want to talk about is the new Overseas, which is the 4000V. We have a retrograde calendar in blue dial with steel. So
Moon phase as well, right? If I'm not
right.
wrong.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think it's a good looking watch. I haven't tried it on, I haven't seen it in person, but it just looks clean. One of my biggest thing that I didn't like about the 4500 was the date window.
Oh,
It was it just stuck out. It didn't seem to flow as nicely as other brands.
sure.
So when they came out with this one, I actually like it because one, the date window's gone. It's very symmetrical.
Yep.
And I like a moon phase in my watches.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, I own the perpetual calendar version, obviously, famously or infamously. And I think you've looked at that watch or maybe are waitlisted for it as well. But I believe both have the same underlying JLC caliber. Looking at the case spec, at least, is the most disappointing, or it's easily the worst case spec in the whole Overseas range.
Right.
I've done a video review of this, so if you want to learn more, check that out. But as for me, design-wise, I think it's awesome that they've done it in steel. I believe it's also a thin watch if they're using the same caliber, which is awesome. Size is pretty good, 41, down from the Perpetua at 41.5, so that'll wear slightly better. My only real issue is that I think the sides of the watch look a bit empty because you have the retrograde at the top and the moon phase on the bottom. Then the sides are kind of
Got a bit of empty space.
voided space. Aside from that, awesome watch, but I believe the price, I mean, I don't know if there's anything official released,
Yep.
at least not in Singapore, but I believe it should be around mid-70s thousand Sing, which is not exactly cheap. For that sort of money, you can be buying rose gold complicated pieces or dress watches from other high-end brands. So
Even the Nautilus, I mean, the 5712, the R and the Gs, I think retail they're going for 70s.
okay,
Yeah, it's
interesting.
a precious metal. Of course, you're losing the bracelet, but you're getting gold. It's a moon phase.
Right.
You're missing the retrograde.
Yeah. So I think the pricing would be important for this one. Again, in my opinion, the 222 was a great watch, just that the pricing is a bit too high, in my opinion.
Because they raised it as well from 90 to
Yeah,
100.
again, you can say inflation, but I think watch inflation is oddly high oddly high.
It's been going higher and higher.
Yep. Anyways, moving on from that, we have another release. This one I'm very fond of is the 6010. I believe it's a traditional.
Yep. Looks like a traditional.
We have, again, going through the retrograde theme, but with a tourbillon. So I've, had a lot of experience with something similar, which is the complete calendar,
Yep.
open face.
It's a
That
similar layout to what this one's come out with.
kind of, but it's a lot more complicated and less clean. For me, that has always been one of the nicest VC releases, and the most value for money. It's just a shame that they never really publicized it too much. What are your thoughts on this one?
I've always been a fan of the open face one that you have. Like you said, it wasn't very very public. They didn't release too much or market too much on it. I feel it went under the radar. I'm sure some people don't even know it came out until you show them. But this new one, it just looks really good. I've always been a fan of the traditional case just because of the hands, the Dauphine hands.
It's a very high polished case also.
And it's got like a two-tone finish to the hand.
Yes.
So
One
it's
side is
always-
sandblasted, I believe, something like that.
Yep. And it just looks good. I mean, honestly, VC does one of the best, if not the best, tourbillon cage in the market.
I would
with
agree.
The Maltese cross.
Even the
And
movement is really good.
yeah, even everything is just beautiful. I mean, you've got peripheral rotors. Everything is perfect. This is my favorite from VC from this year.
So is the pricing perfect?
So the pricing is not the best. I mean, you're probably looking at threes. I'm not sure.
No,
of the
I
exact
believe,
number.
I think I heard, I'm not sure if it's high ones. I believe it's high ones.
Okay. Because I know the
which-
traditional Tourbillon is going 180 or 190.
Oh, then
Yeah.
maybe that was actually the green one. Or
That
you
one is
mean, a plain one?
Yeah, plain rose gold white dial
okay.
tourbillon. So maybe this would be pushing
200s?
two-ish. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So it's still a steep price point, but I mean, from what they can do with it, it looks good. It definitely looks good.
Yes, young, it's tasteful. The complication of retrograde plus
Yep.
tourbillon is interesting. But yeah.
And retrograde is not done nowadays. Like you don't really see it in watches
Yes,
as
I
much.
believe it's quite rare. And I think there's a satisfaction in seeing it jump
Jump back.
all the way back. So yeah, I think that's all there is from VC. So the next brand that we'll be talking about is one that is, I suppose, close to my heart. If you followed the tale of the missing moon phase, a werewolf in Germany stole it. So it's Lange. And this year they released only one watch, which is great. They last year they did the titanium Odysseus and a pair of Grand Lange ones, which very handsome watches, grainy dial, and slightly thinner.
Yep.
But this year, all they've done is release a single Odysseus in steel with a chronograph. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
I do like it, for someone that hasn't owned any Langes or I never really experienced any Langes in person for an extended period of time. I think it's a handsome looking watch. It's a black dial. You've got a red chronograph hand. It reminds me of my Paul Newman Daytona, honestly. Maybe that's why I like it so much. But, the issue still remains with the bracelet. I'm not a fan of how it's not very integrated. And there's no tapering, or is it?
A bit.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, it's a good looking watch, but I don't have much to say about it.
Yeah, I think for me, my problem with this watch is, in my opinion, if you're gonna do a release like this, you might as well just not show up at Watches and Wonders,
Right.
because it's very reminiscent of last year when they did the titanium Odysseus. And obviously a lot of collectors were very excited about it. The first time the brand has ever used titanium.
Yep.
It's an Odysseus. Super cool, looks good, very nice ice blue dial. But when customers asked, "Can I get one?" the official answer was that it was pre-sold.
Yep.
Now, don't quote me. It may be wrong, but hearing from friends, apparently the requirement for the titanium Odysseus was to have spent 500,000 on non-limited edition Langes, which
Okay.
to me is mind-blowing. But this year, it's kind of reminiscent of that. I understand that the brand has a huge back order that they need to fulfill, but what is the purpose?
But you might as well just cut off the order list.
I mean, just
that
don't
case.
show up,
Yeah.
go take a break, go holiday. But what is the point of releasing a single watch that customers can't really buy? Or if they want to buy, maybe this time, I believe it's limited edition, and so the bundle will be pretty significant.
Yep.
Like, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth as a collector.
Even for existing clients and customers, you're still expected to, I guess, bundle it up.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the bad thing about their sales policy for me, is that there's no real advantage in being an existing customer, because you still have to bundle for any new hot piece that comes along. But yeah, other than that, as a watch, sure, it's handsome. My main issue is that the case is really thick this time at 14.2 mm.
Okay. That's almost like my offshore.
Right, and that's ridiculous considering that the Odysseus doesn't really wear well in the first place.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really want to bash this brand. I still like the people, and the watches they release are nice. Moving on, I guess we'll have one of your favorites, and continuing the sports watch theme, it's
As
Rolex.
Watch Superstars likes to call it, my favorite.
Oh,
So with Rolex, I mean, they've done quite a few stuff this year. They facelifted the Daytona. I think we spoke about that in our previous video. They came out with the controversial emoji date. But apart from that, I think they've done some interesting stuff. They've come out with the new line that took over the Cellini, the 1908. It's a dress watch. It's 39 millimeters. I think it's a good looking watch.
yeah. To me, I think, well, I guess we sort of discussed the Daytona last time, but
Yep.
the new Cellini, a good friend has the previous version with,
Yep.
I believe, a meteorite moon phase.
Yep. I think that's the best looking one.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly.
super handsome watch, very underappreciated as far as Rolex goes. This one, again, it's very elegantly done. I never thought I'd say this, but Rolex has done a nice dress watch. I think the pricing is about 30,000, which, is not exactly cheap, but, it's less than, let's say, a Patek Calatrava in gold. So you won't have the same finishing, but you have the brand, and I do think the design is very handsome. So
And it's
honestly,
an open case
well done.
back as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then apart from the 1908, they've come up with the new GMT Jubilees, which I think you love.
Yeah, for me, the two-tone version is awesome. I've always liked darkish sort of metals, but usually you have that in titanium, but this time it's in steel. My issue with titanium is that it tends to be too light for my taste. I don't like the feeling of spending a lot on a watch only for it to feel like nothing on the wrist.
That's an RM specialty. But yes, of
RM.
course.
That just the contrast of the yellow gold and the dark steel to me is handsome, but the main issue I think is the bezel.
Yep. So you've got a black and a dark or light gray on the bezel. So you don't really see that much of a contrast compared to something like the Pepsi.
Yeah.
It strikes immediately. But apart from that, I think, it's a good looking watch. Two-tone in Jubilee. It's very classic.
Yep.
You're reminded of the old school vintage date justs that uncles used to always wear in coffee shops.
This one's for the younger
This
abeng
one's for
uncle.
the younger abengs.
Soon to be uncle.
Of course. How about the full gold Jubilee that they released?
That one I am not as big a fan. Usually I don't like two-tone, but
Yep.
this is one of the few cases where I do actually think it works. The the yellow gold portion highlights that like polished link
Yep.
middle section.
Yep.
And with the yellow gold being like full yellow gold, it kind of gets lost a bit.
Yep.
So I do like the two-tone a bit more. Then I suppose, yeah.
And then, lastly, you've got the titanium Yachtmaster, actually, from Rolex. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a super handsome watch. The Yachtmaster has always been relatively underappreciated relative to the likes of the GMT or the Sub.
Yep.
But yeah, in this darkened metal, also super cool. Again, like I just touched on, I wonder how light it'll be. I'm sure that being a Rolex, it'll feel solid at the
Yep.
very least. But yeah.
I like the direction that they're going. It's the second watch they've released in titanium. The first one, I'm sure is the Deep Sea Challenge with the massive brick that came out last year.
My favorite watch.
So it's nice to see that they've taken a different approach. It's not just precious metal, it's not just steel.
Right.
They're experimenting with more. And it was actually spotted on the wrist of someone, I think, last year as a prototype. So there were talks and rumors about a titanium Sub or Yachtmaster.
Yeah.
And yeah, it actually came through. And then just before we move on, the Daytona and the emoji day date, we covered that in our previous video.
Yeah.
But for the viewers that haven't really watched it yet, what are your thoughts on the Daytona facelift?
Daytona, I mean, I think in the previous video I said I'm not a fan, but looking at it again, it still looks like a Daytona. My preference is still with the older version. I think it just something about it looks more right. But, it's still Daytona. It still looks very much, iconic.
Yep.
Emoji day date, not much to add. I think it's just a cool watch. It's not something I'd ever get myself.
Yep.
But the fact that it's in enamel is cool. And I guess
It's a wild looking watch.
Yeah, for sure. It's just fun, really.
Yeah.
For the youngsters out there, not the old people like myself. But yeah, the Daytona, I guess the last point is the platinum one has an open case back.
Yep,
Last time I
that's
said
right.
it looks cheap, but honestly, from Rolex, you're not going to expect like an independent watchmaking style level of case back. I guess it's cool that they finally opened it, but personally, I don't think the rotor design looks good. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, funny you say that, actually. I've had a look at some of the close-ups, macro shots of my Daytona, and the finishes are sometimes even better than my AP offshore.
You mean dial side?
Dial side.
Okay.
Yeah, movement-wise, I'm sure it would be different, but even dial side, I was quite shocked. At
But
the
I mean,
hands,
the fact,
underhand.
yeah, the fact that AP, oh yeah, I remember when you did that.
Yeah.
But the fact that AP can afford to come out with a plan to insure watches or that are stolen, I think that was released recently, just goes to show that this is a brand that mass produces their watches. And
It's like Apple Care, sort of. It's
sure, I'm not an
insurance.
Apple customer because
Right.
I don't like apples. But not a very high bar to compare it against, I suppose. Anyways, just a nice thing. Anything else from Rolex you want to touch on?
I think that's most of it that they've covered. Let's move on to IWC. I'm not too experienced in that field, so I'll let you lead this one.
Yeah, I think IWC is one that I've been looking forward to because we'd heard rumors that it was going to come out. And so for those that don't know, the big release this year was the Engineer. I believe that the original one from Gerald Genta was done back in 1976. That was the Jumbo. And then I had the previous version, which I'm not sure what crappy movement it was using. But anyways, it was a super nice watch. But my main issue was that, for one, I wasn't wearing it much because just had better watches to wear.
Right.
And also the bracelet was just way too heavy.
Okay.
And although
It was
I
in
had
steel?
Yes, steel, but I swear it weighed the same as like a freaking gold watch.
Maybe that's where I need to go.
No, it's not blinged out for you, so no gem sets here. Anyways, but yeah, and the rubber strap flared out quite a lot, which didn't really fit my wrist. So now it's back. My disappointment is, one, there's no open case back, I believe, and two, the pricing is quite ambitious at, I believe, high 11,000 USD. For the movement that they're putting in here, let's just say that the profit margin is probably going to be quite big. Aside from that, I really do want to see this watch in person. I'm curious to see whether the bracelet is lighter than before. And beyond that, like how the finishing is, whether it's improved or not. Last time it wasn't exactly the best, but it looked pretty good. And in photos, it looks like a nice watch that I'd consider. The dials look cool. And I believe there's a titanium version. Oh, and I wish they had done an interchangeable strap system.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of brands need to get onto that.
Yeah.
Interchangeable straps. But, so it was discontinued for a bit and then it just came back
Yes,
this year.
for sure. I think a lot of people were looking forward to this one because obviously there's a hype about Gerald Genta sports watches, and this is kind of the one that has been left behind in a
Okay.
way.
Are they always called the Jumbos? I mean, you've got that
No,
for
no,
the
no.
Nautilus. You've got that for the
I'm
80s.
actually not sure why the original was named like that. Again, I'm not super knowledgeable about
Right,
it, but
right.
yeah. I think that is all for IWC. Of course, they did their whatever limited editions this year, I'm sure, but not personally too interested. But yeah, let's move on to a fellow Richmond brand that I think you're more interested in, Cartier.
Yeah, so Cartier this year, they've released, a bunch of different models from the Tank Louis Mas to the Santos Dumont to, honestly, there's so many. Sometimes I even forget, I'm not huge into Cartier. I do appreciate the design language of them. But one that I really liked from this year was the Skeleton Santos Dumont. So they came out in rose gold, steel, and a yellow gold, if I'm not wrong. And the yellow gold comes with a blue lacquer. So they're all limited to 150 pieces. But, it's skeletonized. It's got a micro rotor at 8 o'clock featuring a little plane.
Very cute.
Actually. Yeah, so, I mean, design-wise, I think it looks nice. The lacquer is something that they've experimented with last year when they came out with the Santos Dumont. What are your thoughts on it?
I think looks super cool, as always with Cartier Skeletons. I tapped on it a bit previously, but while the finishing is not great,
Yep.
mostly machine finish, but the designs are pretty damn awesome. The Chinois previously is one that I always thought looked very cool, but regardless, they don't really suit my wrist, and I do think they are priced ambitiously again.
Yep. I think this one is about 60-ish.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
For a time-only skeleton, that
Yeah.
is oof.
If I'm not wrong. Yep.
Yeah. Again, I think the pricing is a bit ambitious, especially considering that, I mean, hearing from friends or other dealers, the Cartier secondary market isn't very strong.
Right.
You know, it had its moment in the spotlight,
Yep.
but after that, I don't even think things like the Pebble command that much of a premium anymore. Anyways, beyond the Santos Dumont, what else is there?
There was this Tank Louis Must. It's mosaic dial.
Okay.
I think it's a cool design. Previously they've done it in a red, green, and a black. In steel, this year they've come out with a yellow gold. So it's nothing revolutionary.
Right.
I think it's just a cool option to have.
Yeah.
As a collector, you have things to choose from that you can buy immediately.
Yep.
So I do quite like them. Yep.
Well, I'm not sure if you can even buy immediately
Okay,
because
that one.
last time,
Yep.
even simple stuff like I think there was a black Santos Dumont, the black
Okay.
lacquer one.
Yep.
That was never a limited edition or anything, but apparently even something like
couldn't
that
even
was
get
like
it.
super hard to get. Even
Right.
only now, I think, do I start to see people having NWAs of that.
Okay.
And dude, this is like 1 year on from
For
its
a Cartier
release
as well.
Yeah, for a Cartier, that's
right, right.
production. So yeah,
But then moving on from Cartier, JLC.
yes.
I think I haven't looked much into the releases, but one that stood out was the chronograph, the reverso chronograph.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
For me, it's super cool. I was very surprised to see it. Usually, I think when they have skeletons, it's like, stuff like tourbillons, which I believe there was also a new tourbillon this year.
That's right.
But this one is cool because I was talking to a friend yesterday and, he works at a sovereign wealth fund. Hence, he can't really, be too dressy about things. So he was saying how, he has to purposely choose a watch that is not too flash.
Yep. Right.
His bosses wear like Fitbits, stuff
Yep,
like that.
yep, yep.
You can't be going in
I'll be wearing a tourbillon in.
a gem set day. So, and after I talked to him, I just suddenly thought of this watch because if you look at the normal dial side, it's very simple. It's a very clean
That's right.
watch.
Yep.
It's under the radar. You wouldn't know anything better, but
Yep.
flip it around. And, this skeletonization is well done.
It's very well executed.
I'm not sure about finishing, but design-wise, it's freaking cool.
Yep.
And, compared to like the Cartiers earlier, if I had a choice, I'd pick this for sure, 100%.
Yep.
And it even comes in steel, which is all the better. So
What's the price point they're looking at? Do you know?
I'm actually not 100% sure, but I'll be very interested to find out. I've never had a reverso in the collection, but
Yep.
it's something that I've thought about before.
I
Very
think
cool.
Skeletons are, sometimes it's hard to get it right 100% of the times. Some brands, they do it, it just doesn't look balanced. It's not executed well. But I think JLC, yeah, I have to give it to them. They did a really good job on this one.
Yeah. And on the skeleton note, you know, you also have like sometimes watches are too thin and hence they don't really look good skeletonized. But I guess talking about thin watches, we have the last brand that I wanted to talk about personally, which is surprisingly Chopard.
Okay. Never expected this.
Yeah. So I think this year they released an Alpine.
The Alpine Eagle 41.
I'm not sure if it's Alpine like the F1 team or Alpine, but
Right.
let's go Alpine.
Yep.
Alpine Eagle 41 and it's ultra thin with a salmon dial that is fashioned around, I believe, the iris of the eye, like an eagle eye sort of design.
Yep.
But yeah, it looks cool. The thing I'm most surprised by is that ultra thin watches tend to have very poor water resistance, but this one has 100 meters water resistant,
Okay.
which for some idiot like me, I enjoy bringing watches into the pool for the gram.
For the gram, of course.
And to the dismay of people managing the brand. But yeah, I think it's freaking cool that they've created an ultra thin watch like this, and the pricing is pretty reasonable at 22.5 USD.
Okay. How thin are you looking at for this?
I believe it's 8 millimeters, which,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
that's pretty
That is-
awesome.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
That is very impressive, I have to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good watch. It's a good looking watch. Salmon dials are trendy, right? You slap a salmon
I feel
on
like
it and
almost a
everything.
bit fatigued of it now, though.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's releasing a salmon at one point, but
Right.
people still love them. I mean, it's a very easy dial to wear out. It's not as bright as a, bright green or lacquered blue.
Right.
But yeah, I think it looks nice. I've only played with the previous version of blue. I think it's a light blue dial.
Oh.
It's a nice watch, but I don't have too much to say. It wears well. The lugs don't flare out as big.
Yeah, it wears very small.
Yep. Yeah. For someone like me, I think it's nice.
Yeah.
It wears very nice.
My only issue, of course, I think we've talked about this before, but the bracelet doesn't taper at all, meaning that the profile of it looks very weird.
Yep.
But aside from that, I think, super nice watch. Yeah. I think with that would be the main 8 brands that we really wanted to talk about. But if you're interested in other stuff, I believe last episode, Ryan talked about tag or gem sets. And I looked it up. I think it was this like sort of pink thing.
Yeah. On the crown.
Yeah,
You saw
more
that
power
one.
to you, man.
It's a nice take from Tag, I have to say. I have to give it to him.
Almost as good or bad as putting a pink rubber strap on a Richard Mille. But anyways, yeah, cool stuff. I think other than that, I think maybe some independents had like cool releases. I don't know if they were necessarily part of Watches and Wonders, but on the salmon theme, MB&F had a new Perpetual.
Yep. That was in stainless steel.
Right. Yeah. I'm wearing my LM101 today, so I felt the urge to talk about it maybe. But yeah, just for me, super nice watch. I think people are going crazy, or those that can afford it are going crazy over it. Just that it's very expensive. I believe around 240 Sing, which
Okay, wow.
that is oof for a steel watch. Obviously, MB&F doesn't do steel often, and it's a very nice watch. But yeah, they've hiked prices up a lot recently. That aside,
I've seen some live photos actually today just on Instagram. And
yeah, a lot
wow,
of wrist rolls and stuff.
It looks really, really good.
Superb,
'Cause
but
you've got blue
big.
hands. Yeah, but I mean, price tag is a big thing as well.
Yes. And also,
Realistically.
will wear too big for most people. I believe it's still 44 mm.
Yep.
So yeah, that's quite a large size for most Asian wrists.
Yep.
I believe, did you mention something about Chanel, I think, in our conversations, or?
I had a brief scroll through. I mean, Chanel released some half gem set thing, so maybe that's what caught my eye.
Of course.
So they've always done that half white, half black ceramic.
Okay,
the
yeah, yeah,
J12s,
yeah.
I
Yep.
think.
Very
but I saw,
popular amongst females.
very popular. I mean, they've got some nice stuff. I've looked at the website once for watches for some reason, and they have jumping hours.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Yep.
I was like, what in the hell? I've got a friend that works there. I was like, hey, how much is this? And then once I got the price, I said, what? That's fine. I think it was like 60s.
Dude, maybe you can get a
50s.
handbag with it, though. So.
Maybe it's a bundle. It's a bundle piece.
Yeah, basically. Aside from that, I don't believe there's too much more to talk about. But I think before we end this episode, I'll just mention that obviously everyone has their own taste.
Yep.
So just because, either of us might not particularly like something, or, we didn't really bring it up, doesn't mean that it's bad. I
Yep.
mean, taste is subjective, right?
Of course.
And so it'd be very boring if everyone just liked the same thing.
Like a Daytona. Or Nautilus.
What are those? Sorry. Anyways, but jokes aside, just don't get defensive about it. It's just like a very open, casual chat about the watch releases. We're not experts.
I mean, just because you don't like the watch doesn't mean you don't appreciate the watch,
And likewise, if we like something and you don't, feel free to express your disagreements.
I mean, let us know as well what some of your highlights, from the audience.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there are things that we missed out on, but awesome. Thank you again for joining me. It's been a lot of fun going through the releases. Again, generally, after talking through all 8 of these brands, I do have to say, I think last year felt better.
Yeah, definitely. This year was quite quiet. In that sense.
Again, maybe it's the fatigue and also just the world opening up again, and inflation and interest rates, recession,
That's
fun
true.
times.
That's
You
true.
you have other things on your mind, but I just don't feel like this year was as exciting. Thank you for watching this episode. It was very last minute, so it's a bit rough around the edges. I'll make sure to improve things next time. The next episode will be with a good friend who's deep into vintage Vacheron. So if you like this series, please do consider liking and subscribing so I know to make more. The support really means a lot to me. Thank you.